Through two-factor authentication. This meeting is being live streamed.
You want to intro it, Ryan?
Since we've done this. Yeah, I can intro. We got to figure out how to be more on top of the questions too.
The questions? Yeah, we'll figure that out when we don't do a, you mean like people commenting?
Yeah, like if someone asks a question, it says one person is watching now. Is that me?
That's probably you. No, it's Ian. So it's working. All right.
Yeah,
we'll figure that out when, how to do it and set it up and watch like on a phone or something.
Yeah. Wait, what did I end up doing last time? What, do I exit out of this thing?
If you want to watch it.
I don't want to watch myself on like two different.
Yeah, just go on the Zoom. Yeah, I don't know how it looks for you, but
are we still live? Okay, we are still live.
It's still live. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things on. Sorry, go ahead.
In the event that anyone is watching this right now, this is our. It's sort of, I would say, another practice run at our CCM or Chit Chat Money Power Hour. The name is still pending. We may end up choosing something else. Not sure yet, but this is basically just a random discussion. We haven't prepped at all. We're trying to do this once a week. We pretty much do it anyway, so we figured we just hit the live button on YouTube. Although it's a little more complicated than just hitting live, we found out. But that's besides the point. So I guess there's not really anything that we have to dive into. But whoever wants to, I don't know, kick things off, feel free.
I got one topic that I've been thinking about this week, and that is how like the oil prices or energy prices or commodity prices can affect like your portfolio, even if you're not invested in, say, the energy market or something like that. So say like input costs and all that type of good stuff. Have you guys thought about that at all for companies and what you're looking at, say, at the moment, or even in general? Like, does something that is really exposed to maybe energy prices go way farther down on your potential buy list versus something that really has no exposure at all? I haven't really thought much about it, but do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I feel like a lot of my companies are like equally impacted by oil as an input cost, especially I'm thinking more of the digital ones. So in that sense, it hasn't really impacted. It doesn't have that much of an influence, but yeah, it definitely, I mean, it affects every single company in the world. So it's definitely there, something to think about, but sort of an uncontrollable factor for a lot of digital companies.
Yeah, I mean, but how does it really affect the digital companies? Is it just third, fourth order effects? Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just, like gas prices or just inflation broadly leads to wage inflation, which leads to higher OpEx.
True. Okay. That's like the seventh
I know,
there.
but it's happening everywhere. Like everyone's, I think there's like a headline with Google, right? That they're seeing pressure from employees to raise wages. I didn't really dig into the article, but
yeah. Ian, what do you have on that?
Yeah, I think the big piece of it that I've been thinking about is relative to logistics costs, because I own a couple of companies. I own Amazon. I also still own a little bit of Ethereum, and it's only a little bit because of how much it's gone down, not because I've really sold that much, unfortunately. But and a few other, even like something like Home Depot, I think about a little bit. I own Walmart, and so I worry a little bit about the logistics costs, especially with all these places offering free shipping. That might have a little bit of an impact on gross margins. And it's hard for me to know exactly what that impact is. I haven't done a deep dive on that, trying to figure out what that impact is, because I'm, that's not going to basically cause me to sell any of those companies. It just means that I think some of those probably have worse margins in some of these upcoming quarters. So I think it's going to affect some of the companies I own. I don't think it's going to make me, I haven't been looking at it in the aggressive sense, like, oh, where can I take advantage of this? Where can I either sell something or arbitrage or get into, buy something because of this interesting opportunity because oil prices are up or something like that. It's mostly just been an observation, not really an actionable step for me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. it's really hard. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's very difficult for a lot of people to, make an energy bet or something like that. And I think for me, I try to look at stuff where energy costs or anything like that, where there's an input, and it doesn't even have to be energy. It can just be in general, where there's an input they can't control or a cost they can't control, and it could be volatile depending on the macro environment. I try to avoid that, and typically that makes me go towards more digital companies. And I know everyone in the world over the last 3 years has loved the digital internet high tech
All companies
companies.
are tech companies now. It's fine.
Yeah, and I think technology is probably the wrong word. I really just, and a lot of the digital companies are affected by semiconductor costs, but those are maybe, smaller part of it. I just try to, anything that isn't going to be affected by, say, real world costs, commodity costs, say something like, for the renewable energy market, copper is super important. And I think renewable energy is kind of an interesting industry to look at. But given copper, lithium, and all that stuff that is required to, enable these technologies and for these companies to grow, and those prices can swing rapidly and are based maybe on geopolitical developments like we're seeing recently. That's just it's not a red flag to me, but it can be a concern, because if something like that happens and, say, copper prices go through the roof, nickel prices, lithium prices, depending on what company, if they go through the roof, your margins can get you can be the most competitively advantaged company out there, and your margins can get totally destroyed.
Yeah. I guess I haven't thought through it enough, to be honest. Maybe it's because our portfolio isn't super impacted by it since it is a lot of digital companies. But
yeah, I'm going through, I'm looking at them, and without saying any names, it's probably like 2 of them, if any, three, if anything. And that could be a good or a bad thing. We don't have, much exposure to energy. So, we're lagging that part of the market right now. But I think over the long term, I don't know. It's better to be unexposed.
Maybe we should have had more exposure.
Yeah, I mean, we did have that show on with Jim Gillies pitching that really well-run small oil producer, and it has done quite well. And as someone brought it up recently, and they have performed quite well, but hats off to that. But that's just not the game I like to play.
Is there any? Have you guys been buying? I guess I know Brett's activity, but Ian, have you been buying at all?
I bought a little bit a couple of weeks ago, and it's probably the first time I've ever we'll see if this is just a dead cat bounce here, but it's the first time I've ever actually gotten a good run up after buying some stuff too. Generally, I buy something and it goes down 20% immediately, but yeah, I've been buying mostly kind of digital stuff. Let's see here. I got back into, or not back into, but I bought some more Callaway, bought some more Zoom. I started looking at the free cash flow yield on Zoom, and it was, at 4%, 5% in that range. And I'm like, okay, it really doesn't take much here for Zoom. The expectations are fairly low at this point for Zoom, and I think that it's going to continue to grow revenue. So that seemed like a good bet for me. And then the biggest thing I've done recently is I bought quite a bit of Wix. I made Wix about let's see here what it's gone up since I bought it some, but let's see where it's
at. Rare situation.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how do I deal with that, right? Where it actually goes up after I buy it.
I know it's funny how my knee jerk reaction, like when I have some of the stuff is down half from its highs, yet my knee jerk reaction when things go up is like, oh, let's wait for a down day. And it's to add, and I'm like, well, I shouldn't care.
Yeah. But I have a good question for everyone. What's something on the watch list that you feel like, or you've researched and you think has a good thesis, or there's a thesis potentially there, but you can't seem to pull the trigger on having any conviction? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I've got plenty of those.
I think one is Roku. I look at it, I'm like,
that's the first one that kind of popped up on my watch list. Zoom to some extent. I guess maybe Roblox.
It's a good one too. Yeah.
But the thing with Zoom, like, I don't know. It just is so like it's like they hit market saturation in the blink of an eye, and now they like I have to ask how much are they going to get from their existing customers? Like, how much more revenue can they increase from their existing enterprise businesses? Because I don't think net customer ads is going to be like the primary driver of growth moving forward.
Yeah, I think they got to rotate everyone who is on the free college accounts into paid users. That's the big long-term growth driver. I mean, that isn't that like half of everyone's usage is just sticking on that college account, or maybe that's just what for the people I interact with.
I think that's maybe our just our experience, but that was actually there. I was talking about this with someone yesterday, which is there's like a whole bunch of business software companies that I've looked at, like DocuSign, Zoom. Those are kind of the two that come to mind, where the product is replicable and it doesn't seem moaty, but people just don't switch off of it. Like it's just a pain to switch. Dropbox is kind of like that. Like you just don't want to switch, and there isn't necessarily a reason to.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. It's hard to I get really uncomfortable with those because I feel like it's hard to define the moat, like you said, or any sort of moat there. And if it's just switching costs, how important is it? But I mean, sometimes it's just, you can't describe it, but you know it when you see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That type of situation.
Like Zoom. Yeah. Okay. Zoom. It's like, I guess I could use Teams, but like, it isn't ideal. I'd prefer to just keep using Zoom, but it's technically there are alternatives. So it's like there is sort of that threat of substitute products.
Yeah. I mean, Zoom has a lot of products they can add on. For example, like recording stuff, how we record the podcast, recording it. It should be way easier when you record to automatically record locally and then automatically send each local file as a combined thing to the person that needs it, because that's what there's so many podcasts getting recorded out there, or live streams or whatever. I think that would just be, and not even, that's just kind of in our niche for stuff we use. I think there's just a ton of stuff Zoom could add, and maybe I'm just not looking at their product suite too much, but I feel like they could be lacking on all the features they could add. I don't know. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, they could just literally make like local recording available and then call it Zoom for podcasters. And I feel like they would sell a whole bunch of seats.
Yeah, I mean, we'd probably buy one.
Well, I'd say one of the things that has become more noticeable to me recently is that they've added this kind of app store type thing, and made it more visible on Zoom. And I think that's an interesting direction, that they're looking at Zoom more as a platform, and that, hey, we can do this. We can have other developers build apps on top of it. There's actually a guy from my school who sold one of his little Zoom add-ons to Zoom. Zoom bought him out for, I think it wasn't like a huge amount of money, but it was, bought his app and incorporated it in the main Zoom product. But yeah, there's like a DocuSign e-signature app on Zoom. I'm just kind of scrolling through here right now, but there's games, there's notes, HubSpot.
Is every SaaS company going to have its own app marketplace where every other SaaS app is on? Oh, that's what I feel like we're heading towards.
It's a fest. So I was thinking about this. Zoom in the last conference call, or the last quarter, they announced an API integration with DocuSign. So now DocuSign, when you're like signing a contract, if you want to like talk it over, you can easily plug in and like open a Zoom meeting. DocuSign's got their own APIs for every other company or every other software company. So it's just this software development kit hodgepodge.
Yeah, everyone has each other's software development kit. I mean, credit to Shopify. It seems like every company's copying them. They were one of the first, and they may not have been in the first, but they were one of the first SaaS marketplaces out there, and they really dominate because of that app marketplace. And it sounds like everyone's trying to copy that. I mean, their competitors, Wix, Squarespace, are copying them. But I just laugh when every single company I look at that's SaaS, I guess I'm not looking at too many, they have this app marketplace for the plugins. And it's like they're talking about it as some revolutionary thing. And I don't know, it just kind of makes me roll my eyes, but maybe it's just because I really don't personally enjoy reading about, those types of software applications. It's not really my cup of tea.
I feel like sorry. I feel like for most companies, it's just like a potential future growth avenue, and it's like a small percentage of their business, other than like businesses that are literally APIs. Like isn't Twilio basically built on that?
Yeah, there's a few that are just APIs, and I kind of get drawn. Now, I did read a write-up from Mostly Borrowed Ideas and I'm nowhere near an expert in this stuff, that kind of had me nervous about Twilio. I've never really, I don't think I've ever invested in them, but there was some concerns that I read about, like with WhatsApp and stuff like that. But I kind of am drawn to the companies that are trying to really be like a pure API and not having this hodgepodge marketplace idea, where like Twilio seems to be very, very focused on what they're doing. But I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong.
Ian has plenty of experience with Twilio.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's worked for us in the Apple building, and I think I don't know. I like the idea of having building blocks for things. I think it makes it work well. I don't like the hard part of it is figuring out how much of it is like once you reach a certain scale, then a lot of times you decide you want to build your own solution. And so one of the things that's like what Uber did with a lot of what it was relying on for Twilio, eventually decided to build out its own service. And I don't know how much of a risk that is across the board.
Match Group said they're doing the same thing.
It's okay. That's interesting to me that like Uber, that's their way of gaining margins instead of stop throwing away money on like these absurd marketing campaigns.
Have you guys watched the TV show? Have you watched the TV show? I can't until I get back next week from back in the United States. There's a TV show about Uber called Super Pumped. Looks decent.
Based on the book?
Yeah, but Coach Taylor from Friday Night Lights is playing Bill Gurley, which I just can't wrap my head around.
What's it on? What service is it on?
Showtime. So it's the same people that made Billions, I believe.
Andrew Ross Sorkin at it again.
No, I don't think it's him. He's like, he was an executive producer. So I think it's the people that actually make it, not the, not the executive producers, but it looked decent. I don't know. What about the WeWork one? There was a WeWork documentary. I've been trying to watch these, or not documentary, show. There's a show on WeWork now.
WeWork or Theranos?
WeWork and Theranos. There's both. WeWork has, it's kind of weird because it's like these people from Twitter, like Scott Galloway or Bill Gurley or something, and they're getting played by these actors on TV shows. And I'm like, they're just kind of crazy FinTwit people just like us. Like, and they're getting played on this TV show, like, and getting all dramatized. I don't know. It seems to me, I'm seeing all these, Theranos, WeWork, Uber, and it's like, why are you making a show on something that's still going on? Isn't that kind of weird? Like
it's over?
Yeah, like it's over. I mean, WeWork was kind of whatever. Maybe that, or Theranos, excuse me, is over. But I don't know.
I started the Theranos one, and it's like impossible to watch. Like it's like cringe humor without the humor. It's like you're just sitting there like kind of tensing your shoulders the whole time. Like, I can't watch this.
Yeah, the documentaries for those seem better. What about the Carl Icahn documentary? I haven't been able to watch that.
Beautiful. It's a wonderful documentary.
I bet it's pretty funny too, because he's kind of funny when he's not trying to be funny.
Yeah, he is. He's quite the character. They go into the Bill Ackman Icahn duel from like the CNBC host point of view, and they're like, everyone on the floor stopped what they were doing for like 2 hours. They were just like mesmerized by this like shouting match.
That's funny. All right, I guess I derailed us a bit.
So again, let me give a quick shout out here. We've got a chat, and Ryan, they are saying that your studio looks dope, bro. So
hey, Oh,
There we go.
Some all that money invested in the studio paid off. You got
What was it like?
these foam
Don't look at
pads that don't work so well.
Yeah.
We,
No, the pads, the glue doesn't work at all. If you see behind Ryan, he's hiding the ones that are about to fall off.
yeah, I've been reapplying the glue, but
Yes.
we got to get more stuff hung up. I think we could really trick this place out if we gave it. I mean, it would be costly, but
Yeah, we might need some more ad revenue first.
the problem
You
is
can see it as go
we
ahead.
don't do enough video related stuff to like warrant the cost.
Yeah. So this, you'll have to, everyone's going to have to keep watching this as the only video thing we do. But that's cool. Thank you. And I have no idea where the chat is. But I'll find it maybe on the next episode. All right. What's another good topic? Do you guys have any topics?
Oh, I have one. So yeah, the other day Wix announced a partnership. I guess I know we just talked about how like everyone loves to do partnerships and release a press release about it, but they have like an integration now for their merchants to the Amazon's fulfillment channels. And so my thought was like, for all the companies, which strategy do you like better? That where you just leverage or just access Amazon's, but you're kind of relying on them, or Shopify, who's trying to build it out themselves?
It's a big question. Ian, I don't know. You have any thoughts on that?
That is a big question. I think it ultimately comes down to what are you trying to be good at? And I think for Wix, they're really trying to be good, at least in my opinion, what they're really trying to be good at is make it easy to set up a website, easy to set up your store, all that type of stuff. And so they're willing to sacrifice a few points of margin, partnering with other people to do, in this case, fulfillment or, some of the other types of services on there, instead of like, I wouldn't be like, if they'd come out and announced, hey, we're doing, we're spending $500 million in capital expenditures over the next 5 years to build out our own fulfillment network, that would have been concerning to me as a Wix shareholder now. And so I think, I think there's always some risk partnering, especially with someone like Amazon, just because, like you were saying, Brett, then you become dependent on them. But I would much rather see that, I think, at this stage, for especially a company the size of Wix, than trying to build it all out themselves. I don't think there's a need to reinvent the wheel right now, especially when that's not what their core competency is. And I think that's generally the framework I kind of look at when companies are making decisions like that, is take the tools that are available to you and try and focus on what you're good at. And eventually, if you reach something like Shopify scale, where building out your own network is achievable and it's not going to totally break the bank, then I think you start looking for that. But I don't think that's the thing that a company, especially the size of Wix or a smaller company like that, should be focusing on.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I think I prefer. Well, it's unique to every situation. The partnerships are unique to every situation.
Are they though?
I think like someone announces a partnership, say, okay, I remember when Cash App, or whoever, that would be under Block, they did a press release announcing a partnership with some esports team. And I was like, okay, that's nothing. But for this is like a real one. And I think specifically with this situation, I would much rather have, I agree with Ian, stay with your core competency, because if I'm thinking of Shopify, if they're going to get to the level of Amazon, you're going to need to spend all your profits, all your cash flow on this CapEx over the next, say, decade to catch up with Amazon. And Amazon will likely be ahead of you by then. I just don't think it's a game they can win. And if you're like Wix and Shopify is way more dominant, but Wix, Shopify, Squarespace can win with the own website thing. They can win by taking the payment solution. They can win by taking the subscriptions and having their own app marketplaces for people to add on stuff to their website. But there's just I think it's a tiny chance they win in logistics versus Amazon. I mean, it's just Amazon, their best thing is logistics. Amazon's websites are really not that great. The reason everyone shops there is because of logistics. And if Wix can take what Amazon is best at and offer that for their merchants, I don't see why Shopify, call me crazy, wouldn't do the same thing, or at least do it with UPS or something like that.
Yeah, and
I'm sure, well, they obviously do it with UPS, but like some sort of, I don't know, Shopify, I think should have tried to buy UPS, to be honest.
I looked at I think I've got the numbers right here, but Amazon said they're going to spend like $60 billion on CapEx to continue building out its logistics. And Shopify was like 500 million.
It's a billion. Yeah, it's $1 billion over multiple years. So it's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. And that's why they can't win. So why try to win?
Yeah. I wonder if more and more people will just keep using that Amazon fulfillment channel.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, why do you need so many fulfillment networks? You don't need 5, maybe 2, UPS and FedEx and Amazon. Like, you don't need 5. It's just a waste of resources.
You need enough that they can't price gouge.
Yeah. I mean, the consumer concerns, there could be anti-competitive stuff, but just thinking like resource wise, like why do we need all these different networks? We don't need just 5 of the same warehouse. It seems super redundant
because they're the next Amazon.
Yeah. You can't be the next Amazon without the logistics.
They're the next Amazon, despite Amazon being the current Amazon.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's not, I don't know. I always get alarmed when companies are like, we're going to build out our fulfillment capabilities.
Because they're gonna lose.
There's got to be a less expensive way to deliver your products fast.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between building out your own warehouses for, say, if you're an online retailer. One company I followed a lot is Revolve Group, and they have their own warehouses, but they don't like deliver the products. There's a difference between that, having your own warehouses for your product, than compared to having, Amazon handle that yourselves. So I think there's kind of levels to this. But the shipping aspect, I think, is what we're trying to talk about, is going to be impossible to win at.
But remember when Wish was like, I remember reading through Wishes and they're like, we're going to be close to all our consumers. We're going to have all these different stores that they can that we can deliver to or deliver from. I was like, that sounds really expensive and you're generating you're incinerating cash. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule. But I think in general, it's really hard.
All right. Yeah, I want to another example of that real quick. And this is actually to kind of call back to an earlier topic we were on. A company that I've had that's been on the watch list for a long time, but I've never actually bought and haven't quite had the conviction to buy is Five Below. And one of the things that they found was, hey, we can build out these distribution centers. It's going to actually improve our margins over time, as we've been talking about. And that they've been able to make fairly strategic and limited capital investments across the country in a few I think they call them fulfillment centers. I can't remember if they call them fulfillment centers or distribution centers. Maybe distribution centers that both like the majority of their revenue is from in-store purchases. And so these mostly are shipped out. They have a few of these warehouses around the country that then ship out to all the stores in all the states that are connected to them. But they also have been able to start doing some online sales. And I think some of that comes from, I'm actually not sure. I'd have to go back and look, but I think some of that comes from the stores themselves, but a lot of that comes from the distribution centers as well, if I'm remembering right. And so it's kind of been able to both improve. I don't know. I think there's like the whole distribution fulfillment center thing makes sense to me if you want to tackle as a way to like marginally improve margins, I guess, to incrementally improve margins once you've reached a certain level of maturity. But if you're still in the high growth phase and you're trying to figure out your business and really, really grow it, I don't know why you would focus on picking up a couple of points of margin for something that's a little bit tighter margins, like Five Below, that's, like I said, reached a little bit more of a level of maturity. They're still trying to grow their store base, but their model is mature. then I think those are the places where it starts making more sense to, okay, yeah, let's start trying to figure out how we incrementally improve profitability over the next 5 years.
Yeah, it comes to the key question is why are companies trying to do this? And it's because you want to offer a better value to the customer. And the whole reason people invest in fulfillment, whatever, delivery, all that good stuff is because you want to offer 2-day shipping. You want to compete with Amazon on that. And you have to ask, how am I going to get there? What's the best way to do it? Do I want to make it vertically integrated? Do I want to partner with someone like Amazon or UPS or FedEx? Or do I want to try to do it in a hybrid model, say like Walmart, Target, Costco, Five Below might have been a good example, using my store base? It's just, how do you get to offering, like, the customer is not going to know the difference. Really, they're not going to know the difference if you offer them great shipping, 2-day shipping, free shipping, or cheap shipping, or whatever it is. But you have to offer that. You can't offer 10-day shipping, and you can't have it be super expensive, because we've learned that no one will buy it. So whatever that however you can get to that, or if you're a platform, however you can offer that to your merchants while maintaining the best margins, the better. I think that's just the key way to look at it, because each retailer or each platform is going to have a different way to go about it. And I think sometimes it'll make sense to partner, with Amazon, like Wix is doing. But sometimes if you're a Target, Walmart, whoever, maybe even what's one I've looked at before, Abercrombie and Fitch, right? That's the name, A&E. They have other stuff too. They might be able to utilize their stores more, and they might not want to partner with Amazon and maybe just use UPS or something like that. But I think it's unique to each situation. You have to ask, how am I going to deliver better value for the customer, and how am I going to do that with the best margins possible? And maybe that's just for every business in existence, but I think that's how people have to look at this for without generalizing everything.
What do you guys think about Formula One? We just had an interview drop with Francisco Oliveira. Have you looked at the business, Ian?
I have looked at the business a little bit. We actually did a deep dive on it a year ago or so. But not so deep dive. But since then, I haven't bought any shares myself. My sister actually bought just a couple of shares in one of her accounts, but and it's performed. It's been like one of the best performers over the year because of everything else in her portfolio has mostly been down. But
I feel like your sister's absolutely crushed all of us.
Yeah, I think she has. Yeah, she's been doing pretty well, and I don't even know if she knows it. She's bought it and spending her time playing high school basketball. So I think she's beating us on all fronts. But no, I think Formula One's interesting because if you look at the sports leagues over the last number of years, they've all been increased in value, right? Like people are more and more, and I think this is a good thing that more and more people are coming out of poverty around the world, and as more and more people are retiring earlier, getting more free time, all that type of stuff, that entertainment, the demand for entertainment has just continued to rise. And we've seen that with things like Netflix. But I think the sports leagues are also an interesting way of looking at that. And Formula One seems to me to be a sports league that's on the rise. It has some big personalities. I think Drive to Survive is going to go down as one of the biggest. That's the Netflix series on Formula One. And I think that's going to go down as one of the best and best marketing campaigns of all time. And they got paid to do it. So I think that's good. I've watched all of the seasons of Drive to Survive now. Just watched the most recent one last week, actually. And I love the show. I haven't actually gotten into Formula One until like this season. I'm starting to think, I'm going to try and start watching them. Decided, I think I'm going to be a Ferrari fan. And then
wow, come on.
Ferrari came out and won the first one, got 1-2 in the first race. So
you're just supporting the Yankees.
People are going to say, yeah, exactly. People are going to say I'm jumping on the bandwagon, but I was trying to kind of pick a middle of the pack team, and I like both the drivers on that team. So we'll see. But anyways, I think that's one of those ones that feels, I don't know. It's hard to come across. Like, I'd be interested in listening to I haven't listened to the interview yet. But I'd like to see kind of what the valuation case might be for Formula One. But it's just one of those ones that seems like everything's moving in the right direction for the company and for the business. And so I don't know. It's very intriguing to me for sure.
There's a Vegas trip, or there's a Vegas race now. I'm thinking
rumored, heavily rumored.
I'm thinking we expense it to Chit Chat Money for research purposes.
That's a joke. We're not actually going to be doing that, but okay. I mean, Formula One's on my watch list. It's one of those I can't get myself to make a pitch on or try to buy, because I feel like I just want to buy it because I like the sport now. I don't know. I watch the races. I think it's pretty interesting. I enter Francisco Oliveira, who was the guy that came on and did the pitch, made a great pitch. I think it makes sense. Like, just thinking about it really simply, the Vegas race is basically, let's say, like 95% going to happen, and it's going to be Thanksgiving weekend, 2023. I think I'm going to go. Like, that sounds super fun. That feels like a buy. That feels like the thesis right there. But it's just hard to one, the big thing, they have the track and stock, and that's a bit complicated. I get, worried about how much Liberty is going to toss on maybe some debt to them and stuff like that. But I don't know. It seems like a really hard place to lose money if they have the current ownership and if they have the current strategy of going American, going to China, and just making it a better entertainment package instead of just a racing league, making it more like it's more like reality TV even in general, making it just more entertainment in general, like the NBA kind of.
I have a question. We're all going to the Berkshire meeting.
Oh yeah,
I know it's difficult to ask questions, but if you got your one question for him, what would it be? If you got up in front, if you're able to get in front of the mic.
I've strangely thought about this way too much.
Same, 100%.
So it used to be like something about adjusted EBITDA, but they've been asked that a lot. So I think I'm just trying to make it simple because I know people make mistakes by doing things that are too complicated or giving them a cop out. So I was going to do just a simple one, which would be, how do you know something's in your circle of competence? Because they can't give a quick answer on that. Because they just whenever someone asks a good question and the person gives them a cop out to give a quick answer, Munger will just go, he'll just say something for 5 words and then Buffett will laugh and then they'll be like, all right, next question. And you're like, fuck. Or sorry for no swearing, but you don't want to make that mistake. But I think I'm going to send that one into CNBC or wherever you send it into for Becky Quick to read off. Hopefully I'll get on.
Yeah, that's I have thought about it a lot. I think so I've listened to all those. They're on podcast form now, and they date back to, I think, what is it?
94. There's some bad questions. Half the questions are terrible.
Yes. And a lot of the questions are you don't want to be in the group of bad questions because people listen to these podcasts years later. And a lot of them are they spend all this time showing how much knowledge they know about one thing. And then they ask a terrible question. And it's just kind of like a look at me, I know so much question. And that's the one question type I really want to avoid. I also don't want to be how do you live such a happy life?
Oh, I hate that. People, Buffett, I don't know. The people that ask that don't actually know what Buffett's was like. He's kind of I'm saying this as someone who really likes the guy as an investing role model. He had a weird life. He spent all day reading and then going home and playing bridge on the computer.
Hey, to each their own.
And he basically, and I'm saying this as someone who respected him as an investor, he basically ignored his kids. So, living a happy life, I don't know if that's the best question to ask Buffett.
He doesn't ignore his kids
he did. Okay, this is from the snowball. His kid was hurt, falling down the stairs, and he got home from work and walked up the stairs and didn't even see him. Walked up the stairs that the kid had fallen to the bottom of. And he walked up to his study to read. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be asking that guy about living a happy life.
I would say when they were really young, Yes, from the snowball, it sounds like when they were really young, there was some
Focus. They were focused.
emotional
They were
resistance.
focused. They were
maybe.
focused on the task at hand.
Yes.
Yes.
But as they aged, I mean, he's still like a pretty important part of their lives, I think.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yes. That was
And
sort of in jest.
I kind of wanted to ask him if so a lot of like, I think a lot of funds now say that like generating his kind of returns isn't possible today because of the opportunity set he had. And so first I want to see if he thinks that's true. And then second, if he were now they've kind of been forced to go into larger companies, but if he wasn't doing that, but does he ever still look at those unique situations that he used to just for fun?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that could pry something out of him. Although he'll never say what the small one is because then it would go up 1,000%. But
And I was gonna be like, could you name a few? But,
yeah, I don't know, Ian. What do you? Any questions?
Yeah, I don't know. Like you, I've heard quite a few of the bad questions. Luckily, I don't know enough to ask one of those questions where I am trying to show how much I know, so I'm not at risk of that. But I think I would ask something about his and Charlie's partnership and try and see like what do they think has made their partnership so successful in terms of like being partners and how they have stayed partners for all this time. Because I think that's probably one of the, and it's talked about sometimes, but I don't think it's one of the major things that's talked about. But I think it's probably one of the major drivers of Berkshire's success is to have two steady guys at the top of that for all this time who have stayed partners, who seem to complement each other well, and who seem to be friends, right? Who seem to enjoy spending time together and working out these problems and finding businesses and all that type of stuff. So I think I would want to ask something along those lines.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Like I remember Munger said one time that he's never had a fight with Buffett in 70 years. I don't know if it's 70 years. Say 50 years.
it is close to 70 now.
70? Yeah, no, they met in the 60s though. So I think it would have been a little, right? Or was it 50s?
They met in the 50s because he's 7 years older. It was right as Buffett was starting his partnerships. Okay. Because whatever the money meant, one of the people in Omaha like brought the two of them together for dinner.
Right. I was just trying to think of when they started calling each other every night, like investing long-term, lovers.
It was when Charlie had his law firm, right? Like
he was still
doing it. And Warren kept telling him like law is good for a day job, but it's not a real career. Like,
yeah. Well, at the time, they said that lawyers didn't make the money like they do today. But yeah, I guess, I mean, either way, long time. And then he said they'd never had a fight, like a real fight, which is, that's probably a good question to maybe ask them why. Maybe it's because they're so good. But I mean, they've had hiccups. So like, I'm sure when they did Salomon Brothers, Munger, if he was obviously against it, and he could have been like, we wasted all this money, I told you so. But like, how was he able to restrain himself and just be like, you know what, like, you'll figure it out?
I think it's probably because Warren was more worried than he was.
Well, I know, but like Munger didn't want them to go into it at all. But, when it turned into a big mistake, he could have been like, oh, I told you so. And maybe he said that, but
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the way Snowball painted it, but I don't know if he was completely against the Salomon deal other than like the culture of investment banking. Like,
yeah. And he's not even a decision maker. He's just like, Buffett's the decision maker. Yeah. So. All right. Any other topics we had? Sorry.
Yeah, we've got a few minutes left here. We've got a couple of people who've asked a couple things in the chat. I don't know if we want to touch on either of them, but someone asked if we looked into Zim already, which is ticker ZIM, which is I don't know anything about it. It is
No,
Zim
but-
Integrated Shipping Services.
I have not.
Oh, I thought that was Zin Coin. I do Google alerts on Zin because we own a Swedish Match.
No,
And
gosh.
there's a-
So this one,
So what is it?
This
What's the
came up
ticker?
during our logistics discussion, but it's ticker ZIM as in Mary.
Zim.
Z-
Um,
I am.
No, never heard of it.
so
Heard
it
it,
looks
but,
like
Maybe we've got a new not so deep dive.
yeah,
Wow.
it's something to throw on the list maybe.
It says 1 times EV to EBIT. That could be wrong. That's probably wrong, but yeah, let's put on not the watch list. We'll put it in the queue for
Decent
potential
size.
episode.
$18 million market cap.
Yeah, it's up almost 500% in the last 5 years, 150% in the past year.
That could be.
So
All right.
Says
Yeah, we
it's
have a
a-
lot.
Israeli International Cargo Shipping Company. So
Yeah.
one of the top 20 global carriers. So something to maybe throw on, like you said, throw on the not so deep dive list.
Up 150% in the last year.
Yeah, good performance for anyone who's owned it.
5 bagger in 5
And
years.
then, yeah. And then we've got someone is asking if we have any opinion. He says, "Hey guys, what's your opinion on Teletalk?"
Teledoc, no opinion.
I'll just briefly say I do have a position in it. My opinion on it for a long time has been I think it has one of the best chances to be a major player in digital healthcare going forward. That's why I think the Livongo deal made sense in theory. They've probably overpaid for it, but they had a stock that also was potentially overvalued at the time. But they've got a lot of execution. There's a lot of uncertainty around it, right? I think just between the macro environment, all the different types of players in the healthcare space, insurance, government intervention, all sorts of stuff. I think it's one that has a lot of there's a lot of questions about it, a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah. Oh, I should be.
That
we
was a bit of an
should-
on the fence answer there, Ian.
Yeah, you're a a young politician here. I should be clear though that we are not a show that's going to do any sort of like. If people ask about stocks, like, what do you think of X? I'm sure it's a great question to ask, but we're not going to do any sort of recommendations or anything like that. It's
No.
going to be,
We can talk
if
about
anything,
it. We can talk
about stuff, but basically it's not recommendations. We're not trying to pump anything. It's going to be
We're not
basically,
pounding the buy button or the sell button.
yeah. And usually if we know something well, or we've written about it before, you can contact us and we can refer you to something that we've written, but it's going to be hard, on the show, but most of the time we'll probably not know about.
There are stocks we will avoid,
Yeah, definitely.
but we'll come to that when we get there. I would say Teledoc has been lumped in with a lot of the quote unquote shitcos. Like it's been a lot of people are calling it like, one of just the COVID stocks that like isn't worth anything now. I do know a lot of investors that I respect and like and think are pretty intelligent own it. So I don't know. It is it's interesting. JMO owns it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's covered it for a long time over at the Motley Fool. Brad, who joins us on the Not So Deep Dive, covers it a lot. I believe. Look at his newsletter, but yeah, EV to sales seems down. Yeah, it's unprofitable, so it's gotten hammered. It's in that narrative right now.
Is it cash flow?
I'd
Are they
say-
generating cash or no?
I do not know. I used to follow them, but then I kind of realized, and I own them in my personal account like 2 years ago, but I kind of realized that I actually didn't understand the industry. Oh yeah, positive cash flow. There we go. It's probably all SBC.
Hey,
It is all
don't
SBC.
just assume.
It is. I'm
It
assuming.
is.
The shareholder pops in. Yeah.
100 times cash flow. Right?
Yeah, but again, yeah, this is one that it's unprofitable. So, gosh, you have to expect volatility. You gotta expect that with these. I always get nervous talking to someone who just has a question over a YouTube chat, like about a stock, because like I have no idea when someone says, "What are your thoughts on something?" I have no idea what they mean. They could mean like 10 different things, Like, what are your thoughts? So hopefully we answered it.
We ask that all the time on our interviews. Thoughts on management?
Yeah. No, I mean, but just like, it's like if we did a whole interview and we just said, "What are your thoughts on the company?" And you're like, "I don't know."
I like the question. We can't deter people from asking questions, Brett.
No, ask those questions, but I just want to warn people, if it's a question about a specific company, typically.
I'll take it if it's a question about we'll defer to Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll jump around a little bit. We all have, I think it's funny because I think in the stock market, that's one of the great things is we've got countless examples of concepts we can talk about, right? And so there's all these different concepts, but we can use real life stocks to discuss the concepts. Or we were talking about logistics today and how logistics and supply chain kind of interacts with all these different stocks and how it interacts with them in different ways. And so I think we might not always, as Brett was saying, we might not always give you quite the answer that you're looking for in terms of a buy recommendation or a sell recommendation or things like that, if that's what you're looking for. But and we won't be doing that. But I think companies do provide a good way to kind of look at some of the things that are going on in the economy and with technology and how different things are interacting. We've got all these examples out there of companies, and so it provides a pretty good sandbox to kind of mess around with ideas. So like Ryan said, keep asking questions. We'll decide how we take them.
We can just say nothing to add or something. But
any more in that chat? Anything else? Anyone say anything? I prefer.
No, that was the big thing.
Those are the two questions.
Those are fun.
Yeah, I do like the chat. Seriously, don't be dissuaded from asking questions. But yeah, specifically, like, I do try to avoid to talk about anything I own, but that means that if it's something I don't own, I likely won't have any good thoughts on it. So I kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, there's like a small section of anything I might have any good thoughts on. So like,
it's the point of the show. You're supposed to shoot from the hip on stuff you know nothing about. That's the
whole thing. Just know that if I have a thought on a stock, that means I most likely or 100% don't own it. May own it in the future, but because I don't own it, I probably don't know what I'm talking about. But it's fun either way.
Martin said thank you. So about our Teletalk discussion. Martin said thank you about our Teletalk discussion.
Yeah, definitely check out Jason Moser and then Brad Freeman, who comes on the show on the podcast. Check out his newsletter. He does weekly updates on them. So yeah.
The questions or the chat kind of reminds me to mention that we're gonna try to do this. It's every Friday at what time?
Well, it's really up to everyone.
10 a.m. I think is kind of that's a good time for me.
10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah.
And then we're going to hopefully, live on YouTube forever. And then we're hopefully going to load them up onto the podcast feed, which we'll link in the show notes on Saturdays. Just this blank blank file. Yeah. Anything else, guys?
I don't know. Do we want to go longer since we started late?
Yeah, we probably got 10 more minutes, but any other topics?
What are we most looking forward to in Omaha? I'll be honest. I've been thinking about this trip a lot. It's something that I'm
we got free
I'm
lodging.
more excited than I care to admit to just listen to two old guys talk.
We got free lodging. Thank you to your relatives.
Yes.
Which is great. I know that's the worst part of the trip.
We may be sleeping on. I might need a pack and air mattress or something, but
I might bring my sleeping bag, my hiking one. But I know I'm not looking forward to the food. I gotta say,
what?
Well, I don't eat meat. I know they have the Reubens in Omaha, and
I've been a diehard Reuben fan lately since we last went.
Yeah, they invented the Reuben. Fortunately, it's not my favorite food city, but the weather should be great. And we'll see a bunch of people from Twitter we haven't met in real life, which would be fantastic.
True.
Yeah, I'd say that's what I'm looking forward to, is just meeting some of those people. Just being in that environment. I've never even met Brett in real life, so.
No, we did. We did.
Oh, we did. That's right. We did. I totally forgot about
3 hours.
That.
3 hours. One meal.
How could I forget about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's right. That was good. But I think that is cool, just like getting in the environment,
Yeah.
seeing a lot of other investors around who are passionate about investing. Just, I think that'll be a cool thing. I've never been around that many people who are also willing to sit and listen to two old guys talk for, hours and hours. So
My favorite thing is when someone
Woodstock
asks the gold. Yeah, it's true. It's like our music festival for nerds. It is. No, but I'm not looking forward to the people, and this happened to us at the Boston Omaha meeting. Some people, they like to talk about their fund for a little bit too long. And I'm a patient listener. I'll listen for 10 minutes, but in my head, I'm like, man, shut up. But what I'm looking forward to, if someone asks a gold question, I wish I could boo them like a sporting event. I'm obviously not going to do that, but I wish if someone asked a gold question, like everyone started going like, jeering at them, because what Buffett's going to say. He's just going to say pet rock, but there's going to be someone that asks about gold. All right. I hope they ask him about interest rates, though. I'd be interested to hear what he thinks about the 10 years at 2.5%, but PE ratios are still way above that the earnings yield's way above that. So it doesn't really matter. All that good stuff. Interest rates, they know a lot about,
I'll be honest,
the history of the Federal Reserve and stuff. So
last time we went, I was really looking forward to it. I thought I was going to I'd read Snowball, so I thought Omaha was just such a cool city, and I was frankly a little underwhelmed.
It's not a big city.
It was bad weather at the time that we went. Very windy.
Yeah, I mean it's windy. It's in that wind belt area. We did go in the winter, so there's nothing. But we went to the Boston Omaha meeting, which only had like 200 people, and it was good, more intimate. But the city will actually be the thing. Hopefully, it's pretty lively at all the places. But we'll see.
Good bars.
They had surprisingly good bars versus the city size. I'd say very, very strong, at least compared to where we live. Seattle, it's some areas, but compared to how
it's all one street compared to like a dispersed city.
Yeah, exactly. They had a nice, what do they call those, little area. I mean, it was pretty good. Yeah.
All right. Should we call it? Should we wrap this up?
Yeah. Do we want to do a disclosure? I'm sure we'll put it in the show notes. But
sure, I'll throw. Maybe we should.
Should we do those at the beginning? Well, we should record something. I don't even know. Something at the beginning, or no, in the show. Whatever. We'll figure it out. But we should do it at some point in the show.
Yeah, definitely do it for the podcast. Live video might be tougher, but we'll see. We'll figure it out.
Real quick before we end, can we try something real quick? Just because I'm watching on the YouTube stream too. And it's just flashing up each of our videos separately. I don't know.
We should change to
we want it in the future, if we want to change it to the 3. And so to see if we can get that working maybe and see.
Yeah, you should change yours, Ryan, to gallery and see if it changes.
Did it change?
There's a little bit of lag. Let's see.
I changed it to gallery view on my thing, so
I'm assuming that's going to work. Like I said, there's a little bit of a lag.
I changed mine to gallery just in case, although I don't think it's going to do anything.
Well, maybe it'll do something. Hopefully, we'll find a way to do it.
Yeah, but having 3 up is better. See if someone's, and then you can see if someone.
Yep. So if you're in gallery, Ryan, that changes it to.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Well, we're making it. We're figuring things out as it goes along.
All right. Well, if you listened in, thank you. See you guys next Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. Thank you guys. Adios.